Welcome everybody to this wonderful special episode of my YouTube channel where we've got Jean Fleming here. Hello, Jean.
Hello.
Jean's a fabulous client who I've worked with now for a good few number of years, but for a number of sessions now with the Mace Method. And so recently Jean and I were in a program together, and Jean, you hit up against some negativity that basically meant our 30-minute call, which was going to be running some stuff with the process, ended up being addressing questions you had about the process, some issues, some challenges, and which we worked through. We then actually discreated that with the process, didn't we? And got you feeling back in charge of your life again. But what I'd thought from this was actually it'd be great if we could come and share this with everybody, share the questions you had, because I know that you're not unique in those questions come up. You had a lovely collection of lots of them in one place. But I know that lots of clients have similar questions and similar challenges. So I thought it'd be really, really helpful to get those shared out in the world so that we can help others get some understanding of what's going on. But also really, 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 I'd say to everybody, if you're in the Mace Method process, if you're having negative thoughts and feelings about the process itself, get yourself to your practitioner so that they can help you deal with that. So yeah, Jean, I'm going to now hand over to you. You're in charge of this. And say anything else you want.
I guess first of all, I'd like to say I feel like I owe you an apology because, and I said this to you before when we had the call last week or whenever it was, because I feel like I put you through your paces of trying to justify your Mace method, and then you're like, I don't have to justify this, Jean. And it was like, oh, right. And it kind of really diffused me and my angst or whatever was going on. So, okay, so I'm just going to pose the questions to you now in the way that I did back last week when we had the call. So the first one was, I don't believe the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. Can I just say this first of all? So the energy you asked that from last time was so different, and I could feel the response that that just gave me then, which was actually quite neutral, because you're feeling quite neutral asking it. It's a perfect example of how I know when somebody's broadly how I know when somebody's caught in negativity or when they're not. But thankfully I can remember my response as it was back then, which was that I don't need you to believe the process. So it's not about believing. And in fact, I know that John Mace, when he was first sharing about it with people, particularly those who were skeptical, psychologists and people who believed they understood all there was to know about the human experience. And he would say, well, come and experience it, prove me wrong, come and the only way you're going to actually test it is if you do the process and see what happens. So that really holds true with everybody, even if you're cynical, even if you're doubting, even if you're thinking, oh, I don't think this works. I don't believe it. I don't understand it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. We're leveraging laws of how we work. It's not about belief. It's not about imagining. It's not about hoping or wishing. It's a process that works. And as long as you want something to change, it works. And hence why people can come into it with no background knowledge, with no expertise, with no special bells or whistles. They're simply a human being who has something in their life they don't like. They want it to change. Perfect. The process will work.
And I think as coaches, it's kind of, we often say, trust the process. And, it is a case in this of trusting the process. But yeah, I just feel that there was a shift of something for me. And even if I don't understand the process, because I think it's bigger than us, it's not cognitive. And that was one of the problems I was having, is I just kept staying in my head trying to work out, why is she doing this? What's this doing? And I think when I start to let it go from my brain and just trust the process, there was a bit more movement.
Yeah. So let me just delineate that language.
Yeah.
Because the you that trusts is the real you.
Yeah.
The you that's in their head trying to figure it all out is an identity. That's a negative identity.
Right.
Because the real you is fully trusting. And I've seen that shift for me. Like I wasn't trusting at the beginning. I was trying to second guess what my practitioner was doing, whether she was doing it right, whether I should be telling her this. It was all, I was in my head, absolutely.
Yeah.
With time, and the more I've deleted out of my world, the more I settle into that trust, the more I let the practitioner take the reins. Like that was fascinating to see how much I was trying to do the practitioner's job, but I didn't even understand the process. Like that was prior to my training. And now how I just let it happen. I totally give ownership to the practitioner when they're running something for me. And I totally settle back and I let them hold the reins entirely, and I just be receptive to that. And it's such a different experience. So I totally get where you're coming from with it, but just really want to
Yeah.
emphasize the real you trusts. Negative identities don't trust.
Yeah, and I think that letting go for the practitioner to own it is one of the challenges, because as a coach, I have to let the client own it. You know, I'm there to facilitate, but I'm not there to resolve for them. They do the work, kind of thing. So it's weird for me to trust over to you, for you effectively to do the work, even though I'm, you know, going through a
Yeah.
process. So
Yeah. So just a
yeah,
perspective on that though, because this isn't your first gig, like you've done sessions before,
yeah,
and from this side of things, they went very smoothly, very easily, looked like you were entirely trusting the process.
yeah,
Something got triggered with this one, which then led you into oh, I don't like this process, I don't trust this process, what's going on? And that can pop up at any point in a person's journey. It's not, yeah. And again, that's really helpful as a practitioner. We can see the contrast.
yeah.
We can see the times when things have run easily and gone smoothly.
I
So we
think you see
know,
things in the client that the client doesn't see in themselves, the shifts, the changes, the language that you pick on. You've got you know, pick up, you've got a much more attuned ear to it. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So one of the other things then that you know, I've had a few of these sessions and I've said to you, I come out of the sessions really in a different space, but after a period of time, I'm starting to feel rubbish again. And yeah, it's just, it doesn't feel like it's a lasting effect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I get that as well. There's a there's a metaphor I've used of, and I don't know if I ever actually put this video out. I can't remember now, but I had a metaphor that came to me about when you've had a session, it's like you've gone to the depths of a beautiful pool. You're right. At that session, it's like you're in the depths of the pool, you've just been cleansed of a load of crap that doesn't belong in your system. And you know, like at the bottom of a pool, and it's all like, imagine it's crystal clear water, and it's just like the beautiful swimming pool you've ever been in, and the color of it, and the sun's shining, and it's like, oh, bliss. And then as you come back into life, yeah, there's more movement, there's more activity. And so it feels as though you've lost that bliss feeling. In truth, what you've deleted is permanently gone. It can't, and doesn't come back.
Yeah,
But you come back into life, and what can happen, two things. So if there is any little bits of residual stuff that hasn't entirely gone, always get back in touch with your practitioner and say, look, it's a day later, it's a few days later, and I'm feeling this again. Like,
yeah.
is that right? No, get back in touch with your practitioner and they will help you clean up that last bit, whatever it is that's lingering around.
And do you think that's something to do with the visualization? Because I know when I've spoken to you before, I said I feel like I'm making up the visuals.
Yeah.
You know, they're coming from somewhere, obviously, but I feel like I'm making them up. And when you say to make it small, is it gone? Is it gone? I might say it's gone and maybe it hasn't. Is that why that residual bit comes back up? Or
It can be that, or it can just be something that for whatever reason you couldn't have your attention on in that moment in that session. So it wasn't accessible to you. And then it became accessible after the session. But rather than the whys and wherefores, just know that it can happen, and know that if it does happen, if it's within a few days of your process, if it hasn't solved what you'd gone to solve in that session, get back in touch with your practitioner. If it's a new thing, then yeah, there can be a new thing.
yeah,
That's why I've continued to discreate stuff for the last now 18 months. So it's less frequent now, it's less big stuff now, but I continue to clean up because I see places where I've got attachments, I see places where I'm creating a limitation, I see places where I'm not feeling full of life and light, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to keep living with that. So I continue to use the process, knowing that the more I do, the better it gets, and the more authentic, real me there is. So yeah, so it can happen for two reasons. Either it's a little bit of what you last had, or it's a new thing that's just now been made visible because of what you've cleared. It's like you wouldn't have been able to access that before, and now it's come into your awareness. But
so,
primarily contact your practitioner and
yeah.
they'll help you.
So what's coming up for me there is in the is it a new thing that's come up? So this, I might think it's the same as the old thing, but
Yeah,
you might think it's a new thing. So how do
yeah.
we, you know, how do I know if it's new or old? Or
Yeah, so you wouldn't. necessarily. So sometimes they're very different. Sometimes it's obvious that this is a different set of traits.
Yeah.
But, I've had ones where I've thought, oh my God, it's this again. Like, how is it this again? I've dealt with this one. And then when I've actually gone into the process and I've listed out the thoughts, the feelings, the behavior, it's like, oh, no, this one is different. And I
Right.
could not have seen that until I'd got into the process and actually dealt with it. So don't analyze, don't try and figure it out. Just contact your practitioner and they'll help you through. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about the imaging, the images that we create in our mind then, and are they real? Am I making it up? What's going on there?
Yes. Well, they're as real as anything else that's real. Um, so I guess you could almost think of them as a visual equivalent of thoughts, but it's just an image. It's just a mental image. We as humans have the capacity to create mental images. Imagination is image generation. It's
Yeah.
it's it's always been a human capacity. And so that's really what we're using in this process. That's what we leverage, the fact that the mind creates mental images. And John Mace's assertion is that that's all that the human mind does. It certainly doesn't make decisions. It's definitely you, the being, who does that. It doesn't do anything to you. It just creates images of what you have your attention on, which is why when people are imagining the future they want, they start getting images of mental images of that future they'd love to create for themselves. So we use that in reverse because in that process, you're saying, I would love to have that thing. You get the image of it and it helps it come into reality. It helps you turn that impulse, that idea, that desire into reality, into the world. It's where people do manifestation and all that kind of stuff, law of attraction, all that kind of stuff. We're using that process kind of in reverse so that when the image is created, we're discreating it. Rather than creating into the world, we're discreating a manifestation out of your world.
Mm. Because
So
it's a negative one.
because it's a negative one, yeah. Because we don't keep plaque on our teeth. Because we don't keep poison in our stomachs. We don't keep poop in our bowels forever.
Yeah.
There is a reason we get this stuff out of our system because it doesn't belong there. And although it's all included in the whole, it doesn't belong in your human system. It's not part of who you really are.
So with people who say, "Oh, I'm not visual," is it possible to do this without a vision, without a right? Okay, that's you.
Totally me. I get squares, circles, triangles. I don't get anything interesting when I'm so I know I do get mental images like normal images if
Yeah,
somebody's guiding me in a visualization, like a traditional kind of visualization, like go to a happy place kind of thing. I know I get images of things then,
yeah,
but my images in the process are shapes.
right. Okay.
I've rarely
Is
had
that
anything
quite
in one
common? Do you
shape.
get that?
We
Well, you
don't,
don't really ask people
yeah, we
what the
don't
visual
always
is.
know. No,
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
matter. And yeah, when we talked through these questions, I remember saying, well, let's not use the word visualization because that does tend to conjure up like, oh, I'm resting on a beach, or even, oh my God, that awful experience. It's like it's not that. It's literally the very first thing.
yeah.
Hence why we say it literally can be a shape. It can be a donut. It can be a dinosaur. It doesn't matter what the image is. That's not what we're interested in because it is
Yeah.
irrelevant to the process.
Right. So when you then say, "Is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller?" I feel like I'm making that bit up.
Yeah,
I'm making it get bigger or smaller and
yeah. I used to think that
making it
too.
go.
Yeah, yeah. I used to think that too. And I used to doubt if it had gone.
Yeah,
Really gone? Oh my God, I don't know. Has it gone? I'm not sure. What if it hasn't gone? And oh, but I should probably say it's gone because then what if the practitioner thinks I'm awful because I'm not fast enough at the process? Like, yeah, when I began, that's exactly where I was because it was that and that's all negative identity.
yeah,
Oh God, I'm on the spot. I've got to perform. What will the teacher think? Am I going to please the teacher? Am I going to let them down? Am I going to be a disappointment? Oh my God, am I going to be a failure? It was all my identities playing out in the process. Same with anybody who's in that experience. Um, and so two things again, you can trust that your practitioner knows the process.
yeah,
You can trust that they know how to check with you to see if it has gone. You can trust that if it hasn't gone, it will pop up again because that's what they do if they're not completely gone. And again, we've got all the different ways that we deal with that and address that. So it is absolutely trust your practitioner. They're trained in this. They know what to do. They know how to address it. We've all had that situation of thinking the image is gone and it hasn't gone.
Yeah.
And the practitioners are just, that's just normal. It's just we're used to it.
Right.
And know that, like, so I often have sessions with Nikki Drew, who I know you know as well. And I always remember Nikki making the observation of me. I can't remember which identity it was I discreated, but I remember there was a big shift when she was running something with me. She was like, wow, you are so still. Like, you're not trying to tell me how to do the process. You're not trying to take over. You're not, there's no, like, there's so little movement. It's going much easier. And I've had another shift with that again, where I can now just observe these images with so much less distraction. I used to be distracted by thoughts and ideas, and then I'd be off on a tangent and really needed the practitioner to bring me back into focus on the image.
Yeah.
Now I can so much more easily just observe the images, and it's like, oh wow, that's how easy it gets to be.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
then another sort of common thing that you say through you said the treatment, through the practice is, yes, that's the real you, that's not the real you. So how do you know what's real and what's not for
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. I loved when you asked that question the other week, because people often get really pissed off with me saying that. Like, how the hell do you know? And and to some extent, you know what, you're right. You know you best. So you will always know what feels good or what doesn't feel good in you. And I cannot tell that 100% from the outside. So in truth, and actually I had this reflection after I called you, and I was like, do you know what I should really have done was say to you, okay, close your eyes and just check how that feels. Because when you actually check in yourself how something feels, you know the difference between genuine grounded clarity and any kind of yuckiness, agitation, negativity, contraction, restriction. So, absolutely, in truth, you know you best. And you would always know the difference between what really is the real you and anything negative in that. Um, but we, as a practitioner, you do get a really strong sense broadly, not always 100%, but broadly, you have a very strong sense of when somebody's in an identity and when they're not. You pick up not just on the words, there is an energy behind it, there is a feeling behind it. Hence why sometimes I might double check with a client and just, feel that a little bit more, just really feel it, because that will emphasize one way or another. Whenever
Yeah.
we have our attention on something, it amplifies that thing.
Yeah.
Our attention is our power. So the more we have our attention on something, the bigger it gets, whether that's money or problems or delights or disappointments. It's like whatever we put our attention on, it grows.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't realize sometimes that I'm focusing on a negative identity. And in conversation with you, you will say, oh, that's a negative identity, let's work up something. So what is it you're picking up on? Is it language? Is it energy? What is it?
I don't know, because it's very intuitive for me now.
Right.
And I remember being on the receiving end of that when I started out, and I'd be saying something and I'd just be in flow of a situation, like, and this happened and that happened, and then no, 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 no. And Cherie would say, Helen, close your eyes. And I'd be like, what? What do you mean? I'm just telling you a story. Like, God. And I
It's
would
like
close my eyes.
therapy. It's like therapy.
And I would close my eyes because I was being a good girl and people pleasing and being good for the teacher. Um, that might happen less now, but I've also got a stronger sense in me of what's me and what's not me. So anyway, she would interrupt me and she would just get me to close my eyes, and it really showed me the nuance of contrast, the nuance sometimes of what's you and what's not you, or something that might just be the tip of the iceberg, which is why sometimes when people close their eyes and you put your attention on it, it's like, oh, it's just a little something. But then, oh, and then it expands and then it grows. It's like, oh, bloody hell, this is actually this is a big something that's been sitting there under the surface. We never know.
Yeah.
All we know is, does it feel good? Does it not feel good? That's the primary navigation. If this feels good, if you feel free, light, easy, creative, in control, in charge of your own life, amazing. That's the real you. Anything that doesn't feel like that, any resistance, any defensiveness, any protectiveness, any reaction of any kind is not the real you. And that's what you don't have to live with.
But of course, I also had a reaction to the word discreate, didn't I? I don't like it. But I like the thing that you're saying about, we can create a visual thing, but take away the negative things and how you manifest it and unmanifest it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so one of my other questions were, how can you be so certain that it works? And I think that the challenge I have, and this is the same as whether, I want to lose weight, so I start, you know, going to the gym and eating a different diet and doing this and doing that and doing all these different, I'm like a magpie.
Mm.
So, I did the Mace method with you, and I also did a couple of other things. How do I know it's the Mace method that worked versus the other things, or the combination of all of them, quite possibly?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. So um I can only speak from my own personal experience, really like that's the only thing I've got 100% clarity on.
Yeah,
And I know that from everything I'd done before, and you know how much stuff I'd done before,
yeah,
um, through coaching, through therapies, through spiritual stuff, through different energy works, chakra work, shadow work, clear energy clearing. I did so much stuff,
yeah.
and yet still there were patterns running the show that I didn't like. And that was what ultimately brought me to this. And nothing else that I'd ever done before had got to these things. Nothing else had me feel like I was making incremental improvements or even sometimes big improvements.
Mm.
Everything else felt like I was looping around the same thing. And you often hear that. I used to talk about that in spiritual land of
Yeah,
enlightenment. Oh, you'll keep experiencing the same thing. And I used to believe that every time I experienced it, the reason it was getting worse, I thought was because I was getting closer to the truth. I thought it was getting worse because I was getting further, like the contrast was getting greater
mm,
between who I really am and this, whatever this pattern was. As I see it now, that is not true. The way I see it now, the reason it was getting worse was because I was feeding energy to these identities, making them stronger, making them more all-consuming. That's why it was getting worse. That's why it gets worse by midlife, because we've been unknowingly giving these identities energy, more and more and more energy. And so now, rather than me looping around the same thing again and again and again, oh my God, same damn pattern. Yeah, different characters, different circumstances, but it's the same damn pattern.
yeah,
I used to believe that was a part of ascension. I used to believe that's part of just what happens on your ascension journey. No, it doesn't have to be like that. And this is the only thing that's had me see genuine incremental improvements, as I say, sometimes big improvements, and more feeling like me. All the others felt like another mask, another layer of, oh, I'm meant to be better now, so I'll just pretend that stuff's not there. Another layer of, yeah, really, it was all different forms of avoidance.
mm.
Um,
It's
so
interesting. I
yeah.
was listening this morning to Jay Shetty in the Madonna interview,
Oh,
and she's
okay.
talking about the looping, but
Oh,
it keeps looping until you learn the lesson. Is kind of her belief in her Kabbalah, she
yeah,
follows in her spiritual
yeah. And
teachings.
that is the mainstream view. I
Yeah,
guess so. One of the things that she said with a client last week, which really helped him, so it might be useful here. Um, what most it's like a closed loop system, literally. So it's like most understandings, most explorations, most healing therapies, modalities are understanding it from the level at which it was created. That old Einstein thing.
yeah,
You can't solve a problem from the level at which you created it. And
yeah,
most therapies, healings, modalities are trying to solve the problem from the same level that created it. That identity is still there, and you're trying to solve the problem that that identity is creating from the level of that identity that created it. Hence the looping round and round and round, same shit, different day.
yeah,
And so, and you're trying to understand it. I was very much in like, if I could just understand this enough, if I can just see this clearly enough, then I'll have a breakthrough and then I'll be free from it. If I could just learn the lesson, then I'll be free from it. But it was never coming.
yeah,
And although
yeah,
there was lightening of it, as I say, the fundamental pattern was still running, the fundamental driver was still fueling the engine. With this process, when we don't do understanding, so it's not a talk therapy because we don't do the understanding bit first. We
yeah,
do the deletion bit first
yeah,
because that rises you in your elevator of consciousness. Then you can understand it.
yeah,
Then you can look back on it in hindsight and go, oh, okay. now I get it. Now I see how it's played in my life. Now I see the problems it's caused. Oh, now I have compassion for true compassion for myself and for others. Because you've only through the deletion can you rise. And there's lots of things that create that same effect. You know, we could see every time we've had an insight, that's been a rising
Yeah.
in the elevator. But when it's all anchored in a negative identity, you're just sucked back into the pattern again.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I went on the Susie Ashworth's Infinite Receiving weekend, which was excellent and had loads of different elements to it. But one of the things was talking about negative identities, and it
Oh,
was like, you know, your old identity, letting go of the limiting beliefs and all of that, moving into your new identity. Didn't give a discreating process to do it with, but it was just kind of, you know, who do you want to be? Who do you think you are at your true self? And be that, just be that. You know,
yeah, yeah.
stop
So
fanning around really. It's just like be that.
stop fanning around. So that's a nice example where, and something I'll say to clients on the back of their sessions, it's like when you've discreated stuff and you're more in charge of your life, absolutely, you'll find things that you couldn't do before that you're now able to do. So you're now able to choose to be a different person. You're now able to choose to be the person you want to be. That's totally then becomes available. But if there's any element of negative identity trying to be somebody different, that's always going to keep bringing you back to the same crap.
Yeah,
And that's fine because that's exactly how it wakes us up to say, no, 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 you've got to do something a bit more about this. Because it's only once that anchor point is gone that then you can actually consciously choose something different. Like
right.
I can choose now to not spiral into doubt thoughts, whereas before it was just vroom, doubt thoughts, I'm awful, this is terrible, it's never going to work. Now there can be space, there can be, oh, there's that doubt feeling. Don't really like that doubt feeling. I'm going to now put my attention on the heart, on the trees, on cooking the dinner, on something other than engaging with this feeling, which is used to be just automatic when that anchor identity was there.
Back down, yeah. So so let's say I carry on through life and I get a little niggle, something that pisses me off, and so behind that is an anchor that's drawing me down. So that's an opportunity to come to you and discreate. Is there an ability to do it yourself? Is there a do-it-yourself solution?
I would so love if there was. I know John Mace even wrote in his book he'd have loved there to be a self-serve solution.
Yeah,
And when I first came to it, I was like, there must be a way. There must be a way to make this self-serve or like, yeah, use some tech of some kind. But having learnt about it, having now practiced in it for over a year with clients, like, no. And so, you know how I said before, like now for me as client, I can actually allow the practitioner to take control and be in the driving seat and trust that they've totally got me.
yeah,
Um, that amplifies even more for me now the importance of having the other person because our power is where we focus our attention.
yeah.
That is our power. That's why we have a world, or one reason why we have a world the way it is right now, scattered attention with
Mm.
jobs and kids and social media and attention all over the place.
Yeah,
Really, it's a symptom of negative identities, but it's how it's manifesting. Attention is split, 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 split. So people feel out of their power, so they're not creating the lives they want. And I've just forgotten what we were talking about. Oh, yeah, so self-serve. So the whole point is that the practitioner is there to allow you as the client to keep your attention most powerfully where it's meant to be to leverage the process.
yeah,
Because even in the process, like I was before, when my attention was split between observing an image and these thoughts, the image wouldn't disappear because I'm like distracted all over the place. So the point of the practitioner is to help you keep your attention where it's meant to be,
yeah.
focusing on what it's meant to be focusing on. Then the process goes faster, easier, you get better results quicker. And yeah, so I would love it to be self-serve, but no, it does.
Well,
It's
you'd be out of business if it was self-serve. So let's
oh no, because do you know what? My God, this work is so needed in the world.
yeah, yeah,
There is plenty to be done. It's literally like just seen deeper and deeper and deeper. You just cannot do it for yourself. And people
yeah,
have tried, and then they
yeah,
come back to the practitioner going, "Oh, it didn't
yeah.
actually go."
And AI isn't there yet to do it for you.
No, well, no. So you know before where you were saying, how do you pick up on that? There is so much intuition. There's so much
Yeah,
of a deeper knowing.
Yeah.
behind what gets said, and I adjust what I'm saying to each client, and it's so spontaneous. Like there's no, yes, we
Yeah.
have scripts, yes, we have set procedures, but there has to be so much spontaneity and so much responsiveness to the client in the moment, and you
Yeah.
cannot, an AI could not do that.
No.
So
No.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how do people contact you, Helen? Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice question. So my business is Wild Fig Solutions. If you're watching this, you're most likely on my YouTube already. So wildfigsolutions.co.uk, email hello@wildfigsolutions.co.uk. Yeah, anything that you don't like, you want to get free from,
Yeah.
drop me a
And
note.
you do ad hoc sessions as well as programs or whatever. You just, yeah,
Yeah, so everybody starts with their foundations because that's a comprehensive sweep of lots of
understanding.
stuff in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And some people that's all they need, but others like me go on to do lots more.
Yeah.
And everything in between. So everybody's on a unique journey. We don't pre-prescribe and say, oh, you're going to need X, Y, and Z. Sometimes we might say to somebody, actually, it's going to need more than foundations, but that's a case-by-case basis. And so, yeah, it's very much individual journey. Everyone does the foundations, and then it's a case of, yeah, I call them pit stops. So for any
Yeah.
follow-up sessions, just as ad hoc. And then, yes, I've got a program around getting stuff done, which does what it says on the tin,
Yeah.
guilt-free wealth, which does what it says on the tin, and staying in the now, which is the newest one about, yeah, being present and not being consumed or feeling like we're being consumed by a lack of time.
Yeah, because the big thing for me around just to talk for a moment about outcomes is, I came to you because I've never got enough time, typical of many working women. And I now realize that I have time is time. I've got 24 hours in the day, but actually it was me beating myself up for not doing enough within that time. But had so many unrealistic expectations that now I'm much more calmer, relaxed. I still am productive and I like to be productive, but I'm not beating myself up that I've still got, a pile of stuff to sort out in that room. It can sit there. It's fine. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been the difference for
Yeah,
me, I guess,
yeah,
through all of this. Yeah.
yeah, beautiful.
What about you? What do you think's been the difference for you from all of your experience?
Oh,
How is life different for you?
I'm just so much more relaxed
Mm,
and so much more. I'm okay with failing now. So,
yeah.
in the past, I'd have logically understood, oh, failure is good. You see memes online and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like, and I was like, yes, yes, that's right. It is very good to learn from your failures, and failing is great. It's just a state of mind and all that stuff. But it was all quite logical and rational. I didn't truly live it.
Yeah.
And then after this, it was like, oh, yeah, failing's actually really useful. And
Yeah.
like, if you do stuff, then you get to fail, then you get to learn. Oh, yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge one. Um, freedom to like this, no sense of having to prep or make
Yeah.
sure I'm gonna have the right words to say, and being able to genuinely respond to you right now, to people in my life, to
Yeah.
clients. So it then feels so authentic and so real. I've had so many masks around having to be a certain kind of person and show up a certain way, and
Yeah.
lots of people pleasing, lots of fear of conflict. I'm cool with conflict now. Like, there's something to say, I say it, because all the stuff around, oh, but I'll be a bad person if I do that, and what will they think of me, and will they reject me, and will they abandon me? Like, that's all, yeah, it's not a thing.
No.
So, yeah, loads of benefits.
Excellent. Well, good luck.
Thank you so much, Jean. I really appreciate you doing this for me, for everybody who's watching, and I look forward to doing more with you.
Yeah, great.
Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.